If you are any kind of a Star Wars fan, you need to watch this video because you see there have been a lot of confusing reports about what is happening with Daisy Ridley's Rey movie. And unfortunately, I think almost everybody that's reporting on this is getting it wrong. Partially because what Lucasfilm is doing is so friggin' shocking and frankly unbelievable. Yes, I think we are getting a Rey trilogy. Another one. Okay, so why do I think this? Like, what is going on? Well, first of all, you will recall that last week it was announced in the Hollywood trades that Steve Knight left the Rey film. Steve Knight was the Peaky Blinders guy. He was hired after Damon Lindelof was fired when they were originally creating the Rey movie. And yes, Steve has left the film. However, even before that announcement was made, Daisy Ridley was out there kind of doing press for the Rey movie. She was talking about how it was evolving and expect some news soon. Then the Steve Knight thing happened and people were like, oh, so that's the news? You lost your writer? This movie's never going to happen. Basically, people thought Daisy Ridley was saving face, and the resounding theory online was that this film was being delayed indefinitely, it would never come out, and that we were one step closer to it being canceled. And I think part of this comes from the failure of The Acolyte and people believing that Disney or Lucasfilm would learn from something like that. I also feel like there's an overall shifting happening, maybe in Hollywood totally, but seemingly at Disney, where things are going back a little bit more in the direction of male skewing for these big male-dominated franchises. Far be it from me to be controversial or say something that people disagree with, but I do think Disney is understanding that they probably should target the vast majority of the actual fan base for these different IPs, and the vast majority of that fan base is male. That's just what it is. So anyway, the online discourse was literally filled with people talking about the Steve Knight news and expecting that the Rey film would be canceled, that things were going in a different direction. And yet, interestingly, even after that announcement came out, Daisy Ridley was still out there talking about the Rey movie, and she referenced the new one/new ones, as in multiple movies. And again, people thought she was just saving face, right? People were like, okay, Daisy's saying this, but they're actually losing the writer. It has been pushed off of the release schedule. There were even talks of the James Mangold movie coming out before the Rey movie because now they need a whole new writer. However, 9 to 10 months ago, there was a big controversy that spread, starting with Jeff Snyder and then being added to by the Cosmic Circus. This was around the time that people were discussing the Rey movie being canceled, the possibility of it being pushed from the schedule, because there were reports then that Steve Knight was having trouble with Kathleen Kennedy. And Jeff Snyder basically reported that Daisy Ridley had already secured a massive payday and she was guaranteed to come back and possibly could come back for more than just one film. And then there were reports about the name of the Rey movie being seemingly changed to Episode 10. Now, I want to read right from an article that was on thecosmiccircus.com. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because a lot of you that are Star Wars fans are not super familiar with the Cosmic Circus, but if you're on the Marvel side of things, you're probably pretty familiar with them. The Cosmic Circus has the highest accuracy out of any scooping / insiding / rumor outlet or junket or website or person. They're literally one of the best in the game. And so I don't take their reports lightly. Here's what they said 9 months ago. According to our own sources, we can confirm that A New Beginning is indeed the name of the film. More specifically, our sources stated that the film is Star Wars Episode 10, A New Beginning, with the working title being New Jedi Order. Now, they do add in an editor's note here that StarWars.com contributor Jordan Mason has stated on his X account that info from Lucasfilm directly has said the title Episode X, A New Beginning is categorically incorrect, and that while the working title is New Jedi Order as reported, that they are still denying the title, stating no other titles have been / are being used at this time. And the reason we have to keep that in mind is because these are some of the best reporters in the game right now. And so I actually do believe that although they have lost Steve Knight, they are absolutely still committed to making a Daisy Ridley movie. And in fact, I think they're changing it into a trilogy. And I think that might have even been part of why Steve Knight was having so much trouble, because they literally made that change probably after he'd already turned in a different draft. This is kind of similar to what has happened with Blade, where Mahershala Ali's Blade movie has hit all sorts of problems, lost a lot of writers, lost a lot of talent. And Marvel Studios seemingly has gone to Mahershala and offered him more than just the Blade movie. And in fact, he's going to be the leader of the Midnight Suns, a whole new franchise. This is probably something that they did to Daisy Ridley. And I can kind of see the business reason why you would do this. It really does look bad that they are losing the Rey movie once again. Kathy probably views this as being her legacy, her trilogy, and she really wants to do more Rey stuff, and the fact that they can't get it together threatens Daisy Ridley actually being able to return, right? So they probably gave her that big bag. Now they are committed to making movies with her, seemingly doing a whole new trilogy. Like, guys, I'm dead ass. Like, they're making a trilogy of Rey movies. I swear to God, the signs are there. That is what they are cooking up behind the scenes. So go tell everybody you know, hide your wives, hide your kids. They're making Rey movies. Now look, I'm actually going to try to be positive about this. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. I want to try to be positive before I go down the deep, dark hole of toxicity, because this fucking idea is horrible. Okay, so this is me being positive. The idea of a solo Rey movie that's just a one-off that kind of connects to the sequel trilogy was always a stupid idea. Partially because why are we doing more Rey, but also because you can't just do that with one movie. You're not going to be able to properly repair the character's reputation. If that's what you're trying to do, you're not going to be able to do that in one movie. And Star Wars in general is always built around episodic things. It should have always been a trilogy. Like, if they were really going to go back to the sequel trilogy characters, they properly need a trilogy. That's just how it works. If for no other reason than once you see the first movie, you might judge it a little bit less harshly because you know there's more story coming. And ultimately, the 3-act structure of a trilogy does offer you all kinds of opportunity to take the Rey character in crazy directions and actually try to repair what I think is just one of the biggest fumbles of all time with a big IP. And especially if they get Charmin Obed-Chinoy off of this movie and then take their time to develop it as a proper beginning of a trilogy, that is literally the best chance that this idea has. That is the best chance that the Rey character has. That is the direction they always should have been going in. And so if this is a late switch to that, this could actually work. And with proper development and with an actual good story, you could actually see this trilogy be successful. But that's it. That's all the positivity that I can muster, because this is a goddamn terrible idea. Oh my God. I just don't understand it. Like, we thought we were maybe getting out of this whole Rey movie situation. I mean, guys, the sequel trilogy is a part of why we are in the mess that we are in right now with Star Wars. It wasn't a big hit. And the Rey character herself was just mishandled so poorly. They didn't know what they were going to do with the character. And do I feel bad for Daisy Ridley? Yes. I mean, she made those comments about how at one time she was going to be a Kenobi, and then they switched it, and they kept switching it up. Like, she knows what that was like. She was a part of the process, and now years later, she probably looks back on it and she was like, yeah, that was terrible. And of course, she would want some kind of redemption for her character and the chance to do more with that character. I totally get it. But this is a terrible idea simply because it feels like a double down on things that literally already failed. Fans are less forgiving than ever, and we just had this massive failure with The Acolyte, which was absolutely supposed to be like female-centric and was borderline activist material. And you have an idea for Rey that somewhat is connected to this whole flavor of concept because you hired Charmin Obed-Chinoy to direct this film. That already feels like a double down, and now it might become a trilogy. You've got to shift the narrative on this. You have to change this from being about Kathleen Kennedy's legacy doubling down on the failures of Lucasfilm under Disney, and you need this to be an actual trilogy with literal new hope for changes, new concepts, return to certain elements and themes that made Star Wars what it was. Basically, by doing any kind of Rey movie, you're on the back foot. And if you really come out and announce to the fans that you're doing a whole trilogy of Rey's movies with Rey, oh my God, brace for impact. There's literally not a worse trilogy you could announce. What other trilogy could you announce for Star Wars that would be a worse idea than doing a whole trilogy focusing on Rey? So I'll be honest, I'm kind of losing my mind over here, and I just wanted to bring this up because, again, nobody seems to believe that this is actually what is happening. I think it is what is happening. There's a small outside chance this is actually the move. And if taken proper time and proper development, they could turn that around, make it into the beginning of a really cool trilogy. But I would urge Lucasfilm to not do this. And if you also think this is a terrible idea, you should talk about it on social media so that Lucasfilm will maybe finally get the hint and abandon this absolutely terrible idea. Anyway, it's always fun when we get to talk about Star Wars over here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.